Hi there, everyone. And if you had the patience to sit through part one of this series, that is my 2023 LASH recap, you have my gratitude and admiration for your patience. In this part, I'm going back out to the trail to discuss trail life in general. Stay tuned. Before I get started, and this is just going to be a lot of commentary from out on the trail, I just want to kind of review a few rules that I have because you'll hear me mention them in the presentation. First of all, there's my campsite rules. I have two of them basically. There's a 6 o'clock rule, which more properly should be the 2 hours before sunset rule, but in midsummer, that's generally around 6 o'clock. If I'm hiking later in the fall or early in the spring, it can become actually a 4 o'clock rule. And that goes like this. If I'm still hiking at, we'll say 6 p.m., I'm going to take the first suitable campsite encountered. And there's a little bit of wiggle room there. An exception is allowed if there's a known good site and it's fairly nearby. And by suitable, I mean something that's got a good camping spot for pitching my tent and it's got water. So those are the two things that say whether something is suitable or not. There's also, you'll hear me reference a 7 o'clock rule, and that really applies in a Great Smoky Mountain National Park, but in a few other jurisdictions such as Maryland where camping at large on the trail isn't allowed. And that is in areas where camping is restricted at each legal site, if the next site cannot be reasonably reached by 7 p.m., it says stay at the current site. So in other words, if I'm at a site and even if it's 2 in the afternoon, if the next site is 12 miles away, well, I can't get there by 7 o'clock. If the next site is 10 miles away, it's going to depend on how I feel, but generally I can make 10 miles in 5 hours. So that's the rule. And the reason for that rule is I don't want to get caught out after dark, unable to camp and trying to get to a campsite where I'm still going to have to set up after dark. So these rules have served me well, and we'll see how they applied out there. Next set of rules that I want to go over is my water rules. I carry a reserve bottle with me, and my rule is if I break into the reserve water bottle, I then start looking for an opportunity to filter some more water and refill myself back up to 3 liters. If I know I'm going into a dry campsite, whenever possible, I'm going to haul at least 4 liters to the known dry campsite. And that means thinking ahead of time and filling up at a water source that's before that campsite. And sometimes it's going to be even a mile or 2 away. It's tough hauling 4 liters. That's nearly 9 pounds of water. But I use a lot of water at camp. I camp more comfortably when I've got plenty of water. So this is my rule of thumb. And starting each day, I want to leave camp whenever possible with 3 liters. So if I'm at a campsite that does have a water source, not a problem. I just make sure that I've got 3 liters when I leave, and that includes my reserve bottle. So in other words, it's 2 liters in my platypus bladder that's inside my pack, plus the reserve water bottle. If it's particularly humid out, I might go with 3 liters in the platypus bladder. So I'm carrying actually a gallon of water. Otherwise, if I can't leave camp with 3 liters, then I've got to look for my first opportunity to fill and get up to 3 liters as soon as I can. Now, there's a bunch of other rules that I also follow. A lot of them are arbitrary. No need to review them here. They just have to do with making sure I do things the same way every time. Just makes the camping experience much more predictable, and I'm much less likely to leave something behind. So let's go out to the trail. So I was going to take a break around 10:30, but sometimes you just take what the trail gives you. So it's about 10 o'clock. Just a nice little area to stop because most of this has been really common complaint. Georgia's been all pretty much green tunnel. But when I came across this at the top of a hill, I figured this is a good place to stop. And sometimes you just take advantage of the opportunities that arise. Well, just a quick one, as unexciting as it is. This was what it's like to hike through a cloud. It was kind of sunny, then it clouded over, and then I climbed up. Not a steep climb by any means, but I'm essentially hiking in a cloud right now. Well, folks, it's the end of week 2 out on the trail. Been out here hiking 14 days. Gone 192 miles. Not quite 100 miles a week, which is actually pretty good for the first 2 weeks. Today, just the way the timing worked out, and I'm in the Smokies, and you have to kind of adjust your schedule for that. Plus, I don't want to climb Clingman's Dome late in the day, so I've kind of lined it up so that instead of doing a 17 today and a 7 tomorrow, I did a 11 today, and we'll do a 13 tomorrow. Well, folks, day 15 is in the books, and on day 16, I'll be climbing up to Clingman's Dome. It's 2.7 miles away. It's an 1,100 foot climb, which is actually not that bad of a grade. It's about 400 feet per mile, which is if it were steady, would be a nice, easy grade. Dropped down into the 40s last night. Cold day out on the trail. I pitched my tent in an open field, on the edge of an open field. Got a lot of morning dew to deal with. Since I'm only going 13 miles a day throughout the rest of the park, I'm going to be taking it easy, leaving here late, give the sun some time to come in and warm me up. I'm still cold. Well, I'm about to go under a major highway, Interstate 40. This is actually the first one on this entire trip. The 250 miles I've gone so far, approximately. You see a lot of this in the mid-Atlantic states and even up into New England, like at the Mass Pike. But wow, it's kind of surprised me that this is the first time I've come across something like this. You see the trail marks are very well marked around here, telling people where to turn. So I'm about a little more than a mile from the hostel. I got a little more hiking over that, I think, and then I'm there. Okay, I just got off the bald. I'm still on what used to be dirt road, and I see the turn signal here that says, hey, the trail's veering off to the right, and that's great. But this just reminds me of a problem that they have on the trail, is if this were to continue to follow the road, they rarely put blazes up because it's, oh, it's so easy to follow, people don't need blazes. The problem is, you don't know whether you missed the turn. And I'm so accustomed to walking along these roads like this and not seeing a lot of blazes, I could go quite a ways before I realized I really did miss a turn. So it's not that they marked it wrong here, they've done it right here. And there's no marks up that way. But if it did go up that way, there would still be no marks. So if you understand the logic that I'm complaining about, in other parts where you continue along a road and they don't blaze it, you have no idea whether you're really on a trail or you just missed a turn like the one I just did not miss. Well, as maybe you can see, I'm hiking in a pine forest here. It's raining again. The shelter, I did get to the shelter. I couldn't take videos up there. There are just too many people around. They were trying to sleep. The lighting wasn't good by the time I got there. But it was an enclosed cabin, which was great, which meant I didn't have to put a bear hangout. They gave me the whole attic space, you'd call it, to myself. I was able to spread things out, hang things. Everything's still wet. Well, I'm here at the Iron Mountain Shelter. That's 26 miles from Damascus. So that gives me 2 days to get from here to there. And there are nice, reasonably nice tent sites, but it's still early. I'd like to apply my 6 o'clock rule, see what else I can find, put on a few more miles because I still have it in me. The sites have flat spaces. Good place to pitch a tent. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't pitched my tent in about a week. I've been either at hostels or in shelters. And there's that deer again over there. There's a shelter. Somebody left their hiking poles here. Oh, your hiking poles broke? Frig, just leave them here. You know, come on, people. Carry in, carry out. That's one of the problems as hiking becomes more and more popular. More and more people stop respecting the rules and just leave crap around for somebody else to pick up. So I'm going to look at the map and just see if there's any prospects ahead, because I'd really like to put on some more miles today. Today is one of those days I just don't have it. I did nearly 20 miles yesterday, and I ate a huge supper, and I think that's what did me in, and then a huge breakfast. And my stomach does not feel good. I think I stuffed myself with too much. I seem to be going at my regular speed, actually, but it feels like a crawl. And all I'm trying to do is get another 4.8 miles. That would normally be 2 hours, a little bit more than 2 hours. I may end up taking 3, but it doesn't matter. This is my second to the last day on the trail, and I just want to make sure that I don't leave myself with too much of a commit for tomorrow, especially if I feel like I do today. So if I get that 4.8, then I think I'm down to maybe a 10 tomorrow. I'll figure that out.
This is the dirty bag. Never ever put unfiltered water anywhere but in the dirty bag. If you do, that object, whatever it is, be it a cup or anything, has just become another contaminated thing. You can still use it, but only for unfiltered water, and never drink from it. So we have the filter here. Got a black end and a white end. Always put the black end towards the dirty water. We're going to clamp this shut. Snap it in here, and now we're going to see if we can get the water to flow. Sometimes it takes a while to get it to flow through here. Sometimes you have to back flush it a little bit, so I'm going to put it on here. I filter directly into this. This is my clean bag, and I will get all my clean water out of this. And what sometimes you have to do, if you have any spare water, is to back flush this. Get all the air pockets out of the tubing, and now it should flow nicely into here. And this way I can get a gallon of water, filter a gallon of water. And this is only 3 liters, so whatever I can't get into the clean bag, I just clip it off and leave that hanging so that I can go to it later.
Okay, here's another water example. Water was very, very rare for this little section. I really needed it. That little puddle, that is actually spring fed over there. But there's a lot of floaties in it. A lot of, dirt and I don't know. So what I did was I used a cup and scooped it out of there. And I filtered it through this so you see all the junk that I got out. This is a bandana. I filtered it through that before I put it into my bag. And then, because you want to subject your filter to as little as possible, especially in the big particles. So as you can see, that's actually reasonably clear. So I'm going to filter now that water. Well, here's one of those cases where I knew I needed water. And I get this source. In a way, it seems an insult to the water to filter it, but I'm filtering it anyway. The other hiker who was here, Crockett, says he's from around here. I guess he's used to the water, so he doesn't bother filtering this water. But this was excellent because I could drink my entire reserve and then refill my reserve and then set myself up with another 1.5 liters, which I'm doing over here. Okay, here's a case of the my 6 o'clock rule in action. I did find this water supply. It's well off the trail. I'm down some side path. I've got to climb up 0.4 of a mile to a campsite, but at least now, as you can see here, I've got a gallon extra of water. Soaked my headband in there to cool me off a bit. And I'm not really in need of refill on water yet, though there's 2 more chances farther up. It's the same stream. The trail just keeps on zigzagging back and forth, so farther upstream I'll assess my water and see what I need. Well, I don't know if you can hear it. There's raindrops on the shelter roof. I came to the shelter. I was thinking, hey, I have enough in me to go a little bit further to the next shelter. But I stopped and talked to one of the other hikers. And it started to rain while we were talking, so that made a decision. I'm staying at this shelter. Still put in over 16 miles today. I got the 2nd floor, he's got the 1st floor. I told him if I danced too late just to bang on the ceiling with the broom. So I'm setting up here. Well, hi there, folks. I'm sitting in under a big rhododendron trees, a couple of them. Hunkered down. I've been racing against a thunderstorm all afternoon. I was hoping it was going to pass to the south and then to the east of me, but it just started raining about 2 or 3 minutes ago. So a bunch of other hikers who I've been, intermittently coming across pulled their rain jackets out. They're trying to decide what to do, but I think I'm going to check the weather forecast and wait it out. And I'm not getting too wet under here. My equipment's fairly dry. If I have to, this is a stealth camp, so I can pitch a tent if it lets up too late. Well, howdy folks. Sorry about the darkness of this clip. Maybe I can lighten it up in editing. Actually, after nearly 4 weeks of hiking, this is the first day that I've actually had a start in the rain. I've been rained on a few times. Last night, I actually had to stop and go back 100 yards just so I could get a signal out, tell my wife where I was staying, and that's when the clouds burst. But I got into the shelter without getting too wet. But they've been predicting rain all week. The hiking gods have smiled on me up until now, but now I have to deal with the rain. If it gets really bad in 7 miles, there is a side trail to a bunkhouse that I can go to, make this a half day. Otherwise, got a shelter at 9 miles and a shelter at 17 miles. My hope was to get to 17 miles in, but we'll see how it goes. I'm starting out with the raincoat on and just hoping everything in my pack can stay dry. I've got it all bundled up in plastic bags and an inner bag liner. I do not use a pack cover. Those generally don't work too well anyway. You just kind of accept that the pack itself is going to get wet, but the inner liner should keep everything dry. It's the first real rain day I've had, and it isn't that bad. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure it's raining right now. The wind blows and the water comes off the canopy. You'll see that I'm not hiking with a raincoat. Raincoat is a double-edged sword, and you sweat a lot. You can actually get overheated. So it's a delicate balance between trying to avoid hyper and hypothermia. If I were to stop and have to stand in the rain, the raincoat's going to help me retain my body heat, and I'd put it on. But I knew I was going to have to take it off, and I took it off after it wasn't even maybe a mile. Found a place to hang my pack and stow it. It's like I said, I'm not even sure it's raining now. Under the canopy, it's kind of hard to tell unless there's a downpour, and those can happen. You're actually not getting as wet while you're hiking because, at least on the Appalachian Trail, because you're not exposed usually. You come to a clearing, of course you are. But that's what I got to deal with here. That delicate balance. And right now, because I'm moving and it is a cooler day, I think I just treat it as such. I get wet, I get wet. The weather's been so good to me on this trip. It doesn't surprise me that finally, I have to pay for that good weather. Well, I'm at the Clyde Smith shelter. The rain picked up about the last 3/4 of a mile getting here. It's a decent shelter, kind of hard to see in this light. Pretty good shelter. My pack's a little wet, but it's okay. I'm only 9 miles into the day. I don't want to stop yet, but I do want to sit, have lunch, and maybe see if the rain is going to let up. I don't know if I have connectivity. This shelter, people have left a lot of junk here. This is really annoying. Just leave their shit here. A water bottle over there. I don't know, some kind of pad over there. A pair of pants or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's a leash or what the hell that is. Some kind of strap. Some socks. And then what worries me is there are a pile of rocks there. And that really indicates that people were preparing for bears to come by and to throw rocks at them. So if this is a shelter with a lot of bear activity, I'm not sure I want to stay here, but it's it's a wait and see. I don't really want to hike when it's raining quite this hard, but I will if I have to. Still sitting here in sort of in survival mode. It's starting to rain pretty hard, harder than I like to hike in. I mean, I don't like to hike in rain too much at all, but if it's light, it's not that big of a deal. Coming down pretty hard. This shelter, there is known bear activity. I don't know, I haven't seen a bear yet, but it'd be just my luck that I'd be here alone and I'd, have to deal with a bear. I'm gonna wait it out to 2 o'clock. I'm getting kind of a chill, but I'm gonna wait it out to 2 o'clock because I think I can reach the next shelter by 6. The thing is, my next resupply and good chance for a warm bed, like at a bed and breakfast, is coming up in 24 miles. So if I put on 8 more today, then that's only 16 tomorrow, and I can get there at a reasonable hour. Well, today I've been hiking in the rain all day. I stopped at a shelter, didn't like the looks of it. Not that the shelter itself was fine, but too much talk on the applications and the signs and everything of there being an aggressive bear in the area. I didn't want to deal with that. I'd only gone 9 miles and it was raining hard. I didn't like the sight. I decided to push on another 8.5 miles, which was sort of my original plan. And the irony of all this is that this is the first day of summer, and I'm on the border between 2 southern states, North Carolina and Tennessee. The biggest threat that I face right now is not bears, it's not slippery rocks, though those both are real threats, not falling trees, but it's actually, here on the first day of summer, hypothermia. I am wearing my raincoat, and that's helping me hold in the body heat. Cooking on the trail really is just cooking water, boiling water. In this case, I have a prepackaged meal that another hiker had left in the hiker box, and then he realized I was actually a little short on food, and he told me about it, and I went up to the hiker box, and I got a free beef stroganoff meal here. So what we do, water ready to boil. I've been using the water out of my reserve bottle because that's at least had time to warm up a little bit, so it'll take a little bit less fuel to boil up. And we turn on the fuel. And I have a burner in the woods. There we go. And you're not supposed to use a windshield with this, but I see this one does seem to be, no, it doesn't. It's okay. A lot of times if the wind has come from one direction, I'll at least put a rock or something in the windward direction. Bad idea that I have the spare fuel canister sitting so close, so I'll fix that. And we're going to boil up water. That'll take a couple minutes. I add it to the package, and then 10 minutes later, it's everything's ready to eat. Sometimes you just miss an opportunity. I just realized when I was down at the parking lot, at the bottom of this trail, there's a trailhead with a parking lot and a picnic table and a trash receptacle. I really should have pulled out everything and cooked my meal down there, and I wouldn't have had any trash because I did empty the trash that I had, and I'd have no trash from this meal. One of the nicest things is you see them over there, trash containers. I was able to unload my trash. Well, I'm here at Stacola Gap trash facility. Always nice, even though I only had 2 candy wrappers since I just left a hostel this morning. First morning on the trail, only 0.2 miles into the official Appalachian Trail, though I did hike 9 miles yesterday, which is actually pretty good on a first day, especially with a heavy pack. Just got things airing out. Gonna make breakfast, finish packing. Well, everybody, I'm out here, second day on the trail, and as usual, second days are always the toughest. First day, I actually did the approach trail, 9 miles up to Springer Mountain. Camped out at a nice campground up there, the Springer Mountain campground. And then in the morning, I really put on some good miles, really felt like things were going well, though I could tell that the trail was actually easier than most of it had been. Well, I stopped for lunch and decided like maybe I could try for a 20-mile day already. And I kept on telling myself that's probably not right. So said, well, let's try for the boot shelter. That's 15.6 miles away. Tough second day. Well, the way the day went after I stopped for lunch, and I was just dying. I just ran out of steam. So there was a campground called the Devil's Kitchen. The comments from the other hikers were good about it. And I got caught again listening to other hikers' opinions on what's a good campsite, because no discredit to the Forest Service. They
They built this recently. They put in what they call tent pads. In other words, they tried leveling the ground, but it's in the side of a hill, and it just wasn't level. And I decided to move on that extra 1.4 miles to get to the Gooch Mountain campground. You got to read between the lines in the comments that other hikers make. One hiker complained that this place was like a maze. As soon as I heard that, I said, oh, that means there's a lot of campsites. And sure enough, I got here and I found a really nice campsite.
It's what I like least, breaking camp. But it's amazing what little things can make a campsite so much better. That log right there with all my stuff on it, it's also one I can sit on. A lot of times you're out there in the woods, you got no good way to sit down to like put on shoes and stuff like that. That's just a small thing that just makes it much more enjoyable. I've got all my stuff airing out. This particular campsite has stringed off areas where you're not supposed to walk because they're revegetating. But those make it very convenient to hang things out. Just like to air everything out for as long as I can. But yeah, this is a particularly good campsite because of amenities such as extra string and a log to sit on. Over there, that's my regular clothesline that I'm using. And off in the distance here, you can see there was the bear box, which meant I didn't have to do a bear hang. I could just put stuff in the bear box.
Okay, just to give you an idea of what trail camp life is like, come across the Low Gap shelter. It has water and bear hang cables and a shelter, and the shelter's quite a ways down the trail here. So I've decided to set up my tent here. So this site, basic available water is plus +1. Bare cables, I prefer a bare box, but bare cable, hanging cables is plus +2. There's a privy nearby, plus +3. And here's a flat spot for me to pitch my tent. One last quick little note. A lot of campsites I find, the trees around them have been completely, the lower branches have been taken off, but they, not even little branch stubs like this are there. Those are fantastic for hanging things like water bottles. Or when I'm packing my backpack in the morning, you can hang it on a tree like that. It just makes it easier to stuff the stuff in. And it just drives me up a wall at a lot of the formal campsites. They've cleared all those things out. I don't know if they're considered a hazard. Somebody can get stabbed with it.
The sun is just coming up. One of the things in the past 2 nights, it has been very cold, down into the 40s. One guy said 49 the night before last. I think it was colder than that. I heard somebody say 45 last night. It's cold enough for me to be aware. I wasn't shivering or anything. I was actually warm enough in my sleeping bag, though. In the middle of the night, I did have to put my puffy jacket on also. But I think because your face is feeling the cold, you're very aware of how cold it really is.
Well, I'm at the Jerry's Cabin tent site. It's at mile 301.8 from Springer Mountain. That's how they measure everything. Mostly relative to northbounders. So 301.8 miles is how far I've come from Springer Mountain, which means I've come about 310 because I also did the approach trail. Nice thing here, you see I got my sleeping bag hanging out. I actually had it hung out the whole time I was in the hostel. It was not compressed for 3 days. I hate compressing it, but that's what you got to do when you travel with it. But give it time to fluff out. I got at the hot springs, there's a Bluff Mountain outfitter, I guess you'd call it. Not an REI, like a big brand name one, but the same sort of stuff. And their prices are actually very good. And I had to get a new pillow. My old one sprung a leak that I couldn't find. I suspect it was somewhere near the valve. So I'll get to try that out tonight instead of have to wake up in the middle of the night and blow it up 3 times, I hope. It's the first day out of this entire trip that I've really had to invoke the 6 o'clock rule. I was hiking along pretty well, and I just had it in me to put on more miles, so I did. And 6 o'clock rolled around, and immediately, let's switch this over, immediately I found a campsite.
So by the rule, I should use it. Now, I'm a little short on water, and there's a water source ahead. So what I'm going to do is go ahead to that water source, see how good it is, see if there's anything there. There's actually two water sources like real close to each other. And if there's camps there, I'll take them. Otherwise, I'll pick up water and come back here.
Well, it's the second to the last day of this trip. Put on extra miles last night because I just wanted to sleep in my tent. Probably could have made a better choice if I'd stayed at the shelter because thunderstorms at 3:45. I'm dry in the tent. The tent holds up pretty well against that stuff. The rain has stopped, but of course I'm going to be hiking through pastures and stuff where everything's going to be drenched. But this is the first time I've had to actually pack up inside my tent. So while it's not raining, everything's wet outside. So I prefer to, pack up in my tent to keep everything nice and dry. So that's pretty good out of a 35 day, I guess it was a 35-day hike. Yeah, almost exactly 5 weeks. To only have to deal with this once. So it's life on the trail.
This is the sort of place I might stop at. Nice flat open area, though no water. Maybe there is some in the area, but I haven't found it yet. But this is bear country, and I've been seeing a lot of bear scat on the trail, and most of it was old and fuzzy, from mold growing on it or whatever. I don't know. But I just saw, very close to this camp, some fresh bear scat right in the middle of the trail, which means there's a bear active in this area. So, it's like, move along, folks, nothing to see here. So that's what I got to do. Okay, here's the rest of the application of the 6 o'clock rule. I spent so much time looking for that water, a couple wrong turns, that the 6 o'clock rule came in effect while I was searching for the water to determine whether the 6 o'clock rule should be enforced. So I have a gallon of water plus a couple other liters probably. So I got 6 liters of water, I believe, which should get me through. And I'm going to pitch my tent either here or over there. I just got to see which appears to be the softer ground. This has got a bit of rocks in it. So order of business 1, of course, was to inform my wife, because that way she can, because she probably, if she looked at the track, would have seen me wandering back and forth and wondering what the hay was going on. That was while I was trying to find the water. So first order of business is to tell her, let her know that I've stopped for the night. It's an unmarked, it's not even on the applications, this site, but it does have a mile mark that I could give her. So put her mind at ease. And now I'm going to set up camp, make some supper, find a place to do a bear hang, all that sort of stuff. So as is typical trail life, there's all different types. I've set up my tent. You can see it in the background there. That's home sweet home for the next evening. I haven't, I'm going to swap over here. I haven't used the tent actually in several days, because I had 3 days of shelter. Well, I had 2 days of hostel, 3 days of shelter, then another day of hostel. So it's been 6 days since I last set up the tent. It's a nice little break. This is it's called a stealth site. It's not an official site. I had to haul water up. I've got my clothes out to dry. So I'm hiking along, and I've been seeing a lot of bear droppings on the trail, and most of it showed signs of extreme age, so it doesn't concern me too much. Well, I just came across a place where I might have camped, except I just saw very fresh bear droppings in the trail about 50 yards away. So that means there is a bear active in this area. So
You know, sometimes you can't avoid it, but this time I can, so I will. Okay, there's fresh bear. You can see it in that black spot in the back there, right near the fire pit. There are warning signs all over about bears here, so that's become my priority, is a bear hang. So it's kind of hard to see. You can kind of see that stick hanging down there. That's going to be my bear hang. I'm going to pull it way up to that branch up there, the branch that it's on, which is will not support a bear, so the bear shouldn't go near it. And then I'll have to tie it somewhere over there once I get my food cooked, and then I put it all in there. Okay, I had to change my bear hang. Not only was it too close to my tent, but the branch that I had hung it over, it did not survive the attempt and came crashing down. But that gave me a branch to just air all my clothes out overnight. My bag, it's hard to see up there. There it is. And I'm going to untie it on this end, and it's going to start coming down. Whoa, whoa. So as I untied this, the bag comes down. Actually, now I got to get over there because I'm reaching as far as I can, and I'd have to drop it the rest of the way. So there's my food bag, intact. And here it is. I see it's a moldering privy. Not too private. You see somebody's legs sticking out there. You just kind of wade up the trail. That basket full of leaves, that's how you flush. You take a handful of leaves and you throw them on top. Well, that privy was pretty clean, as privies out here go. Not to be crude, but people often ask, well, there's no water there. Yeah. You see that little bottle in there in the toilet roll? That's hand sanitizer. I always use that. But not everybody does, so that's like where the trail rule comes. You don't shake hands with anybody out on the trail. Closest you come is a fist bump. You don't eat common food. In other words, you don't reach into a bag of trail mix that somebody else has had their hand in. Micro Conti even was like, you don't even get to touch my maps. And I'm sure it's because you just don't want to take a chance. Like I said, I make heavy use of hand sanitizer now. That's my solution to the problem of hygiene out here for quick needs. Like if you take your shoes off and you rub your feet, well, put the hand sanitizer on after that. And that's what I do now. Here's some sites associated with this shelter that's up ahead. Gee, I wish I had come across this at a time when I could camp, because this is beautiful. Nice mountaintop view. There's a shelter up ahead. Nice shelter. But beautiful campsites. But I'm on a slack pack day and I don't even have any equipment to camp here with me right now because it's all back at the hostel. But this is very nice. And that is really, it's hard to tell in this video, but that is a nice looking shelter. You'll see the blue blazes on the trees that got me here. Well, I had my first night in a shelter. I was alone. This is the Standing Indian Shelter. I just realized that we're almost at 5,000 feet here. I was cold last night, not freezing, just chilled a little. I put on my puffy jacket, and as around 4 in the morning, and I was fine. Up there, you can see my bear hang. But yeah, it's a mountaintop one. I think I just read that it's 4,752 feet, 4,752 feet in elevation. So that's pretty good. There's our evidence of bear that was there last night. So the bear, if he came by in the night, I didn't see him. I did wake up several times and looked around. I didn't get out of the sleeping bag, but I turned on my light and just kind of looked out front. Only problem is the stream is dried, but I do have enough water to cook a breakfast and get to the next water supply. I'm going to have to stop on the trail and fill up in water because I will be a little short. This is the Fontana Dam shelter. Very nice shelter. It's the first one inside the park. I just don't want to leave too many miles. I mean, today's a half day. It's 6 miles to the next campground. So I think I'm going to go there.
That way this will be like a near zero day. As far as trail miles go, though, I've walked quite a bit. I did get a ride partway to here from the Fontana village. So, a good look of where I'm not staying tonight. Well, coming down from the tower, moments later, it started to sprinkle. Never got really, really heavy. I never had to put my raincoat on. Being under the canopy of the trees, not a lot was getting at me. I really didn't get all that wet, a little dampness on my pants. The Davenport Gap shelter is the last one. You can see the chain link fence there. It's the last one in the Smokies going north, and it's the only one that still has the chain link fence to keep the bears out. That's a plus and minus idea as far as the Park Service goes. Yeah, it protects the hikers, but not everybody who stays here is intelligent enough to not feed the bears through the chain link, which just makes the problem worse, which is why they started taking them out, I believe. So I'm here at the Deer Park, Deer something shelter. It's the same style of shelters I stayed at last night. It's in a little bit better shape. It is a nice setting. Not quite as nice as what I was at last night on Walnut Mountain. But I got there so late, I really didn't get to enjoy it, you know, wander around. I never even bothered finding the stream. I had hauled water up from like a half-mile out because I wasn't sure about the water at the shelter. And that water was a little discolored, you know, from leaves and tannin and stuff. But actually, once it went through the filter, it wasn't too bad. But I'm just stopping here for lunch break. I'm going into Hot Springs, North Carolina.